Live from
I don't
the
know. I started
O'Reilly
not
Auto
to give
Parts
up.
Studios. Here's Bill Schmidt.
Sports Map All Night is off and running. Bill Schmidt alongside Andrew Carlson. Thanks for hanging out with us across the platforms on the all-new Sports Map Radio Network. The program is Sports Map All Night. You should come hang out with us. 1-800-224-2004 gets you into the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. First, it's going to get you an answer of the phone call with the sweet, sweet tones of Andrew Carlson back in our Houston Mothership Studios. And then you can answer this question. What team has been the most disappointing to you in 2020's NFL season so far? Into week number 7, so teams are starting to you're really starting to figure out who teams are, right? Like, this is the point in the year where your record truly starts indicating exactly what kind of football team you are going to be this season into 2020. Now, there can be some smoke and mirrors, yes. Will there be teams that are movers and shakers? Absolutely. But at the core of where the season stands right now, into the middle of October, you kind of got a good idea of what teams you're looking at, who you're looking at, and where you can go within the next 2 months, right? There's a reason why the NFL trade deadline is near. There's a reason why this is one of the benchmark times in the year. Once you get to Halloween and the calendar turns to November, that's when teams that really start churning in and figuring out if they can be playoff teams. There's only been like 3 teams that have made the playoffs after winning or after just one win in 6 games. It's something that does not happen very often. It's rather an anomaly, if you want to say so. You're getting to a tipping point in the schedule where it's put up or shut up time. So some teams that are going to be the most disappointing to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a playoff team. There's some that are. I still think the San Francisco 49ers are a playoff team. Now, is their record sitting at 3-3 a little bit disappointing? Sure. But then you look at the injuries they've had. You look at where and how many games Jimmy Garoppolo has already missed. And those factors play into the overall judgment. But let's take it one step further. One of the more disappointing teams to me so far just made a trade earlier on today in the Minnesota Vikings. They ship out Yannick Ngakoue to the Baltimore Ravens today, who seemingly never make a bad transaction. Andrew, am I wrong on that? I cannot really remember. It seems like every single time you hear the Ravens with a personnel move in the draft or a personnel move midseason, there's never really a time where I go, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I was about to say trades, draft picks, whatever it is. Whenever the Ravens are involved, it seems like, oh man, that's a good move. Or
Yeah,
that's solid.
That makes sense. Like Calais Campbell, I know he had a lot of money. They get him for a 5th-round pick this year. I don't think anybody was saying, I don't know exactly what he has left. No, you just say, that makes a lot of sense. Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue were former teammates with Jacksonville as the Jaguars traded Ngakoue to the Vikings before the season started for a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft and a conditional 5th-round pick in 2022. Today, he was traded away from the Minnesota Vikings for a 3rd-round pick and a conditional 5th-round pick in 2022. The Vikings punted the investment and lost about 50 places probably in draft position because for a 1-win Minnesota Vikings team, I can't see that being more than, top 12, top 15 pick? You're picking probably in the 40s in that 2nd round. Will be now the Jacksonville Jaguars, thanks to the Minnesota Vikings. They'll take anything back that they could because when the Yannick Ngakoue trade was made this season and before the year was starting for the Vikings, that was a team that had playoff aspirations. Team that's coming off a win in the playoffs a year ago. One of the more hostile environments in the league, going down to the Dome and upsetting New Orleans like they did last year. So you factor in expectations when judging the disappointment levels of what you're seeing. I see the Minnesota Vikings before the year. I laughed about it earlier today when I saw the news come down. Remember when the Yannick Ngakoue trade was made? I want to say it was late August, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I tweeted out man, the Minnesota Vikings just won this offseason. They made that move coming off of their draft. I thought they had a tremendous haul of players, almost reshaping their entire secondary, getting two guys in Dantzler as well as Gladney, who I thought could be starters in the secondary at corner. They retooled a lot of positions that have been ravaged there in Minnesota. So I'm coming out of here thinking, man, Vikings are looking pretty good. They restock with Cousins, and I know they lose Diggs. He's a big play threat, but the guy was, missing a practice when the team was 2-2 last year, skipping out. He can't be exactly what you want in a team that's on the rise. And well, now they're 1-5, and it appears that the Vikings are a sinking ship that is no longer going to be relevant here in 2020. They're in a bye week. They'll come out next week and play in Green Bay without Danielle Hunter, as it is announced that he's done for the year. He's going to go get surgery on a herniated disc in his neck. Vikings are incredibly disappointing when you look at the all-pros that they have on that side of the ball offensively. Even with Harrison Smith and Eric Kendricks on the other side. They're two premier players at their position. They got a lot of talent. We're not able to do anything with it. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys are right at the top of the list for me. Andrew can attest to this. We did our preseason predictions. Yours truly had the Dallas Cowboys representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. That is a stellar miss, and really goes along with 1 for 11 the last 2 weeks in the 3 plays that pay, which will turn around tomorrow night, by the way. When we do that in the 11 o'clock hour on a Friday, each and every week, that will turn around tomorrow. Andrew, I can just about guarantee it. As it'll be a very, very different week in the 3 plays that pay. You came off a stellar one. What, 5-1 this week?
A little 5-1. Nothing major.
Nothing major. Yeah, Texans. I'm not trying to take you down right after I build you up there. You know the Houston Texans got to be on the list of most disappointing teams in 2020.
Oh, absolutely. But also, I think when you compare them to the Vikings and the Cowboys of the world, it's a little bit different because
For sure.
if you look at the national media perspective, at least, or let me go with the Vegas perspective. Both of those teams were expected to be winning teams this season. The Texans weren't. I think their Vegas over-under was either like 5.5 or 6.5. It was something in that range. Something I thought was absurdly low when I saw it, and something I may have jumped in on incorrectly. But when you compare that to where the Vikings and the Cowboys were, there was clearly an expectation for those two teams that wasn't necessarily there for the Texans. So I understand they have Deshaun Watson and they have J.J. Watt and they have some of the flashy names. But coming into the season, while they're obviously a disappointment to me because like anytime you start the season the way they have, you are going to be a disappointment. I don't think that's the same level when you compare it to some of these other teams.
Well, and that's another part of it, a major contributing factor. And I love that when you compare it to other groups, right? And you compare it to other rosters. There were a lot of people that thought going into training camp that the Chargers were a team that could possibly contend at some point during the season. And they're at 1-4, but I'm not disappointed in the way they're sitting. Actually, I'm encouraged about the organization because they made the right decision after a very, very unfortunate situation and circumstance arose with Tyrod Taylor, that they leaned into Justin Herbert, saw that he could play, and said, we're going to make the move for the rest of our future instead of just 2020. The kid's going to keep playing. That's a positive that you look at, right? And you see different moving parts of a team and an organization. The New England Patriots at 2-3. Andrew, I don't know if you see the record, first time that they're under 500 since 2002, I want to say, coming off of a Super Bowl when they missed the playoffs. To me, that's not all that disappointing when you factor in, well, they really had one practice, I think, in 2 weeks. They were a score away from tying the game inside the 10-yard line against the best team in football in Kansas City and almost beat Seattle and were a yard away. Like, those are the contributing factors. You dig in a little bit more. The record doesn't always tell it. You can see that they're a little bit better team than 2-3. But there's also going to be teams, I think, that have positive records that will find themselves in the disappointing category as well. That one, to me, would sit very much with the New Orleans Saints. But is the team as a whole disappointing? Or is it more just Michael Thomas? because, man, this guy is all over the place now. More reports about Michael Thomas earlier on today that he misses practice. His status is iffy for this weekend as the New Orleans Saints are back out onto the field. And it's not now with the ankle injury that was the first couple of weeks. It is now a new hamstring injury that has appeared for the first time on this week's injury report. Also, just a little tidbit and a reminder that Michael Thomas missed last week for disciplinary reasons after he was in an altercation, a fight where it appeared that he was the aggressor in practice. Now it's a new hamstring injury. I don't know if we have some X-Files music here, Andrew, but there's always a thought that a team can cover for a certain player when they, maybe punch a helmet, break a finger, break a hand or something. I'm not saying, I'm just saying that could possibly get thrown around. I've heard it in certain circles. But the New Orleans Saints are 3-2. The record's not bad. But you've seen the way they've played in certain games. You've seen how Drew Brees has played in particular. And that can be a little bit disappointing. Wow, talk about disappointing. Daniel Jones. Dude, the turf monster got him at the 20. Did you see this, man? He was doing the fast run where you're going way too fast for your own good. He was in his own zip code, cruising down the field. That was going to be what, like a 92-yard touchdown run that Jones just missed? He doesn't get hawked. Instead, hawks himself. Crosses the 50. He realizes in the clear, tries to stumble, and oh no, right at the 20, and everybody is laughing at him on the sideline. Oh, man, Daniel Jones running way too wide open for his own good. That's Thursday Night Football going on right now. 1-800-224-2004. Maybe the Eagles fall in your most disappointing teams of 2020 category. I didn't see a whole lot of wins on that roster, but another team that's been decimated by injuries. What one's yours? What is the most disappointing team to you in 2020? 1-800-224-2004. Take a quick timeout, and we have some news for everybody on a Thursday night regarding the NBA draft. We'll bring you that along with Bob Nightingale in 15 minutes. Keep it right here, off and running on Sports Map all night. That is just all too unfortunate. You just saw it all happening so slowly. It was like slow motion. You could see the stumbles start right about Andrew, what would you say? Like the 25 is when he first started the turf monster first got the first little nick of a cleat.
Yeah, you can really see him start to lose his balance a little bit, probably around the 30-yard line. And then at that point, there's really just no saving it.
And he knew it too. You could see when they zoom in on the face, he knew it was coming. He knew it was going down. That has got to be the absolute, there's no worse feeling in all of sports. I mean, I guess I would have to like run with the football to know what that feels like. But yeah, I mean, you're just all wide open in the clear. He even did the check. He looked over his right shoulder, said, oh man, I got like 5-6 yards on this guy. Looked over his left shoulder. Oh, I got like 5 or 6 yards on this guy. And right when you know you're going to score, that's when it becomes the hardest, right? Like it's always the deep ball where nobody's near the wide receiver. And you hear guys that played in the league forever just sit there and go, please catch it. Please catch it. Please catch it. Please catch it. Like they're smalls in the sandlot, just reaching out their hands like, this is a 50-50. Don't know if this is happening or not. But hey, Daniel Jones got some wheels there, man. He was pretty wide open on that.
They just said reached 21.23 miles per hour.
The
fastest quarterback run since 2018. That's faster, apparently, in top speed than anything Lamar did last year. I have a hard time believing that.
Fastest quarterback since 2018. Yeah, I'm gonna call something on that. I'm gonna have to call Bill Schmidt on that. There's no way. I don't know. We'll have to get our advanced analytics team on it. But that would have been an 88-yard touchdown run. Instead, it ended up being a good scamper for one Daniel Jones. Danny Wheels is not Danny Dimes tonight. However, it's now 14-10 Giants after it wasn't a Daniel Jones run. Instead, it was Wayne Gallman checking himself in for 6 after Nickel Roby-Coleman got called for a little bit of a dicey, I guess, pass interference call on a 3rd and goal. Andrew, you thought he was a little bit early?
Yeah, it's one of those where if they don't call it, you probably just call it good physical hard defense.
Mm-hmm.
By the letter of the law, it's definitely pass interference.
Yeah, he had him with the right arm. There was definitely contact. That's for sure. Definitely contact. 3rd and goal. It's a tough call, but more importantly, Evan Ingram is just a little bit. You would imagine out of the big tight end, big physical 2nd round tight end that you'd still be fighting through all that kind of stuff. He just doesn't have that killer instinct like a lot of people thought he would. At that position when he was drafted out of Ole Miss. Not a bad player, don't get me wrong. He's still a mismatch nightmare, for defenses to match up with, but just doesn't seem like the guy that you anticipated you'd see coming out of the draft. Inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts studios, that's Andrew Carlson. I'm Bill Schmidt. Need replacement parts and tools for your repair, maintenance, or restoration project? O'Reilly Auto Parts has you covered. Trust the friendly, knowledgeable parts professionals at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They know what it takes to get the job done right the first time. In fact, professional technicians have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for years. Stop by and talk to one of the professional parts people today at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better parts, better prices every single day. 1-800-224-2004. If you want to tell us who the most disappointing team in the National Football League is to you, through as we start up week number 7 in the NFL. I think the Eagles will fall on a lot of teams' lists as now they're going to punt the football away back over to the New York Giants. And maybe a little bit more surprising, I like what Joe Judge does with this Giants team. I don't know. They're not uber talented, especially with Saquon Barkley out. But Andrew, there's definitely an unquantifiable statistic of seeing how hard a team plays, right? Like it's nothing you can put in a stat sheet. It's nothing that Pro Football Focus has a number on, but the Giants play hard for 4 quarters. They're definitely not the most talented team in the NFL. I think they're actually the 4th most talented team even in that division, but I don't think they're going to finish last because Joe Judge seems to have a team that plays hard for him. That's a difficult thing to have in the league.
And you know what that reminds me of a little bit is the Miami Dolphins last year.
Yes, great comparison.
People basically finished them to say they're going to go 0-16. You know, this Miami Dolphins team is one of the worst teams I've ever seen. I think they finished with like 4 or 5 wins last year. And I wouldn't be shocked if this Giants team in this super mediocre NFC East. Now, I think that the Miami Dolphins team was more talented than this current Giants team, but I wouldn't be shocked if they end up in the same place with 4 or 5 wins simply because they outworked their opponents on a lot of nights. And that's a very good base once you get another top 10 pick and some other things in the offseason to build with, where you can sort of all of a sudden sort of jumpstart that rebuild.
No doubt.
And really give yourself a good platform to perform on the next year and the year after that.
Well, and just looking at that Dolphins team you referenced from last year, they ended up winning 3 of their last 5 games. The one in New England is the one that we kind of all remember, where Fitzpatrick leads them back and they knocked out the Patriots out of their first round bye. But they win an overtime game against Cincinnati, who was what they were. They beat this Eagles team first day of December. And when you get better as the season goes on, that's a sign of coaching and that's a sign of buy-in. They definitely they play harder than some teams you'll see with the record that they do have. That is definitely true. And hey, Daniel Jones, despite where he's drafted and the dedication that Dave Gettleman and the rest of that group and that ownership and that front office have in him and what they have invested in him, when your team's this bad, you got to understand, and you know, we don't win a couple of games, they're going to look at replacing me. It doesn't matter how far removed you are from standing up at that draft day and going and shaking Roger Goodell's hand. You are that close to being replaced. Speaking of the draft, we officially have answers on the NBA draft. It'll be November 18th. Of course, on the 4-letter network, ESPN. However, it's going to be held virtually, similar to the NFL selection meeting from this year. The only difference is we're not going to get Adam Silver in his man cave like we saw Roger Goodell snacking on his M&Ms. Instead, Adam Silver, along with the people's champion, Andrew, Mark Tatum, will be involved again this year, announcing the second round, as always, live from the campus of ESPN. So socially distanced as always, but November 18th will be the date of the NBA draft. Players will tap in virtually from their home parties, as the story kind of reads. Now, I don't know about you. I frankly don't miss the old model of the draft as much as I thought I did. Like watching the NFL draft this year, and I'll have to see how the NBA plays into this, but I was digging seeing the behind the scenes of guys being at their homes for the NFL draft. I didn't miss seeing the guys in war rooms. Instead, I like seeing guys like Cliff Kingsbury chilling out on their all-white couch. Bruce Arians hanging out and said, hey, man, can somebody set up my computer outside? I'm going to hang out here by the fire. It's a phone call business is the draft. There's no reason why you have to have 200,000 people in one place. Well, except for money. So most likely this is the last time we'll see it. Bob Nightingale knows all about the dollars and cents. The best in the business, covering MLB, talks World Series with us next. Thanks to Bob Nightingale for joining us in the last segment of the program. One of the best in the business and one of the most in tune guys with the league. Plugged in all over the place, has just tremendous sourcing around the league. Guys love him. And he has some of the best insight, been around the league for so long. I really appreciate him joining us here as the World Series takes an off day. And then we go 3 straight, ladies and gentlemen. 3 straight in the Fall Classic. Tomorrow night's matchup of Charlie Morton opposite Walker Buehler. Talked about it a little bit there with Bob. If you like good pitching, tomorrow is the night for you because these two guys are both big-time pitchers in the postseason. And there's certain guys that have had success in the postseason, right? There's certain guys that have had big moments or a nice moment, a big game here, a big game there. Charlie Morton, Andrew Carlson, you can tell us as well as anybody watching him with the Houston Astros. He has been one of the best big game pitchers within the last decade, I would say, with the moments that he's had, especially in the World Series.
There's almost nobody else you'd rather have on the mound. The amount of runs that he's given up, just even the amount of hits he's given up in those elimination games. Now, I understand this isn't an elimination game, but in the World Series, it almost seems like everything is.
Yep.
Just because that's how high the stakes are. And when the stakes are high, Charlie Morton consistently over the past 3 or 4 years since he really rose to prominence with the Astros, he's been the best there is.
Well, I'll tell you this. Game 2 felt like an elimination game for Tampa. They lose that game, and there are some big-time problems. Because then you're looking at Buehler in game 3 and Arias as possibly the hammer in game number 4, who just went 9-up, 9-down to close out the Braves in the NLCS. Like that's a dicey situation. Don't sleep on Walker Buehler, though, in a big game. This guy has pitched in some of the biggest games you could imagine for a youngster. At Vanderbilt, pitched in the College World Series. Then he's thrown in like 4 straight postseasons since he's been in the big leagues. He's already logged 55 postseason innings. That is an impressive stat when you're talking about a guy who's only 26 years old. This hour of Sports Map Radio brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. When you need certainty in the home buying process with a loan that fits your life, Rocket can. 1-800-224-2004. It's 3rd and goal, ticking under 6.5 to play at Lincoln Financial. And they try to get it to Golden Tate into the back of the end zone. He had a big catch on this drive. This Giants drive started all the way back at, the 2-yard line, Andrew?
Yeah, they're about to go the whole length of the field.
Daniel Jones, 18 of 27, 177, a touch, and a pick. And they are now 2 yards away on a 3rd and goal from punching it in and going up 2 scores, going up 2 touchdowns, more importantly. And they do with Sterling Shepard housing one in the back of the end zone. That is a big-time drive by the New York Football Giants. That's impressive stuff. And then my guy 65 gets into it. Gates is his last name. His family deserves some love. This guy tried to fight literally everybody on the LA Rams 2 weeks ago and then got himself in for a touchdown dance into the camera. That is some O-lineman love. Into the next hour of the program, Tom Barton's going to join us from Sports Garden. Break down some Thursday Night Football. Keep it right here. Sports Map all night. now. 1-800-224-2004 inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Thanks for hanging out with us. Andrew Carlson alongside. I'm Bill Schmid. You can find him at Carlson Radio with an O on Twitter. I'm at Bill Schmid Radio. Just a D, low T. We're going to hear from Le'Veon Bell in the next segment of the program. Also, you can literally taste the salt off of one future Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball. That comes up in about 20 minutes from right now. And Tom Barton of Sports Garden, the host of Sports Garden's Wanna Bet Weekend Edition here on Sports Map Radio, joins us once this thing goes final in Philadelphia. But Andrew, the memes are rolling in. The troll jobs of one Daniel Jones are starting as the young man broke away on what would have been an 88-yard touchdown run. And the videos are starting to come in. I've seen Killed confirm with play on Call of Duty, which I know you're a big fan of, War Zones, that you'll get a kick out of that. Also, American Sniper has made an appearance. My favorite, though, is a Randy Orton RKO out of nowhere is what cost Daniel Jones a touchdown run from 88 yards away.
I like the Buffalo Wild Wings one where they hit the button and the sprinkler just popped up. I saw a little cross section of that too.
Those commercials were amazing. Hey, can we get this game to last a little bit longer? All of a sudden the button rings behind the guy. Those were some good ones, dude. Buffalo Wild Wings did have a great run there for a while. Oh, and they just keep pouring in. That poor kid had a great opportunity. But hey, the Eagles are not done yet. Right when you think the game's over and right when you think Carson Wentz's day tomorrow is going to be an absolute beatdown, I saw one group in Philadelphia is already starting their Eagles postgame show, down 21-10, now under 5 to play. Then he hits Hightower for what? A 55, 60-yard play. And they're inside the 5, first and goal. So the Eagles still fighting here, down 11 as 4.5-point favorites against the New York Football Giants. Take a timeout. We'll hear from Le'Veon Bell next. Listen to the excitement in his voice. Who wouldn't be excited when they're no longer a Jet? Keep it right here at Sportsman. Now, I don't like being the info guy that rips on the Thursday night game because I just enjoy that we get football on a Thursday night, especially with no action on Tuesday nights. I'm definitely missing my Toledo against Kent State games on Tuesday night. Sports Map all night. Bill Schmidt alongside Andrew Carlson. Andrew, I don't like being the guy that just rips the Thursday night game and says, "Oh, it's always the worst game on the schedule." And actually, usually they're pretty competitive because it's difficult coming and playing on like 3 days rest. However, 1-5 against 1-4-1, and this game has been as ugly as you would anticipate Giants and Eagles so far.
It's just been so awful,
dude. I just watched Carson Wentz run QB power on a 2-point conversion from the 1 yard line. They got an extra 1.5 yards because there was an unsportsmanlike conduct on the touchdown, which Greg Ward scored. Go Cougs. I got you there.
appreciate it.
I love running the football. Don't get me wrong. I prefer running the football with a running back. I know that's a crazy idea. And the way they just ran their Q power to the right side, Q power is where you pull a guard and you try to lead block in for the ball carrier, right? That's a power blocking scheme. For the most part, you run power with a fullback in the game who's a blocker, and then a tailback who's usually a runner, and the quarterback gets the hell out of the way. No, instead they decided to have Boston Scott, who's all of 5'7", maybe, be the lead blocker for Carson Wentz right through the hole on the 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game. That was that's an interesting call. That's for sure. Also, just really poor execution, as Carson Wentz thought he was like leaping over the pile to score there. That's something else for a team that runs and goes for 2-point conversions as much as Philadelphia does. They're not very good at it, right? Like last week, their last 2-point conversion was also a very, very poor failed attempt at a Carson Wentz run. You would think your 2-point play sheet might be a little bit more vast and voluminous than just that. No, instead we're watching Wayne Gallman just run all over the Philadelphia Eagles defense as we tick under 3.5 minutes to go. Once this thing's over, Tom Barton of Sports Guard is going to stop by and give his take on what we've all just witnessed, as well as preview what they got coming up on the show each and every Sunday on the WannaBet Weekend Edition here on Sports Map Radio. They have wins for you, which is one of the best things that you can possibly ask for in the world of sports gambling. And Tom Barton talks sports gambling with us here in about 25 minutes from right now. And Yadier Molina, a little bit salty. We'll tell you why in about 15 minutes here on Sports Map all night. Le'Veon Bell introduced as a Kansas City Chief earlier on today after 18 games in the New York Jets organization, scoring just a handful of touchdowns and 0 100-yard games in his illustrious 18-game career with the New York Football Jets, but also collecting $28 million. Le'Veon Bell, however, just can't put his finger on why it didn't work out with the Jets.
It's not too much I can say about as to why it didn't work in New York. It just didn't work out, and the fact that it didn't, it kind of led me to the position I am here today. And when I had the opportunity, once I was a free agent, talking to Coach Reed, just over in that course, it's like it was just kind of undeniable to try to come here, help this team, any ways that I can help them out. Being an opportunity to play with Coach Reed is just gonna be magnificent for me. So play with these players around, Patty Mahomes. I never played with a player, MVP wise, so it's gonna be fun. I think it's a lot of weapons. It's gonna be fun for me.
He's somewhat right there. He hasn't played with anybody like Patty Mahomes. Now, he did have Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger. I know AB was at least in the discussion for MVP a couple of those years that Lev was in Pittsburgh. But he's right. He's never played with a guy like Pat, who will make any throw at any given time. Ben Roethlisberger wasn't really afraid to let things slide at any point in time. He was always down to sling the rock. However, there's just a little something different when you watch Pat Mahomes and other quarterbacks across the NFL. He mentions Coach Reid there and how Andy Reid is going to be able to dial up plays and opportunities for Le'Veon Bell to attack defenses. And if there's anybody that can put him and take his game to another level at this stage in his career, you got to think it's Andy Reid with the way that he's utilized backs out of the backfield, right? I mean, think about the opportunities he's going to have in the pass game. There was a time there where Le'Veon Bell was in his contract dispute, not only, suggesting that he should be paid as the highest paid running back, but wanted to have more cheddar in that deal because of what he did in the pass game as a wide receiver. He can catch the ball out of the backfield and make big time plays. And if anybody's going to have those opportunities and find creative ways to get him the football in the pass game, no doubt about it, it's going to be Andy Reid. But Le'Veon Bell is loving being in KC and loving being with a new team that is reigning, defending Super Bowl champions, understandably so.
I mean, it's been a lot of excitement, from the coaching staff to the players, fans. They really embraced me being here, and I loved it. I love everything about it. I really feel like everybody welcomed me here with open arms. And it's really a relief. Coming here, I don't really feel like pressured about anything. I just want to come here, be happy and play football. And people are allowing me to do that. So I feel like I'm in a great spot, great place, and I'm eager. I'm ready to roll.
That's Le'Veon Bell earlier today as he's introduced as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. But Andy Reid already thinking of ways to utilize his new toy in their new running back. But Pat Mahomes just sees, more and more weapons that keep getting brought in as the rich keep getting richer.
First off, in the locker room, we're
Deshaun Jackson's hurt again.
Yeah, that's bad, dude.
And Coach Reid have kind of put this culture together. It's about bringing in great players and breeding competition. And so we're excited for him to be in there, be a part of the team, being a part of the culture of winning, and being able to go out there every single week and keep getting better and better. And then obviously he's a mismatch coming out of the backfield. The way he's able to run routes, the way he's able to split out and basically be another receiver out there, it's pretty special. And he's going to get a lot of matchups I don't think he's had recently with a lot of linebackers on him, and I'm sure he's pretty excited about that.
I will tell you this. I love the opportunity to have two backs in the backfield. I love formations where you can have two legitimate runners in the backfield in a shotgun formation with a quarterback. And you put Pat Mahomes back there with Clyde, Le'Veon, Tyreek, Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins. Oh, and by the way, Travis Kelce's also on the team too. The weaponry that they have there in Kansas City is second to none. Whatever the 28-year-old can still do, right? Whether you think Le'Veon Bell is washed, whether you think his best years are behind him, wherever and somewhere in between, right? Because that's a broad spectrum of talent that you still may or may not believe he has left in his body. I still think he's closer to 1,000-yard back than we're seeing and we saw at all in New York, right? You put him with a legitimate offensive line and any types of threat in the pass game, he doesn't have to face 7 to 8 man boxes all the time. You're not going to see those when you're going up and playing with Pat Mahomes. Because any defensive coordinator that runs a 7 or an 8 man box and Pat Mahomes is the opposing quarterback is going to get fired. That's a fireable offense. So Le'Veon Bell is going to have as much open space and green grass as he's had in a long time to run the football. Ever since he was at Michigan State, he's going to have more looks and more open opportunities than he's ever had. So I'm excited to see what Le'Veon Bell can do just simply with the lack of defenders within 3 to 4 yards of the line of scrimmage that he's going to see. I don't even know if he gets, 10 carries a game. Andrew, I think 10 carries a game would be a ton for Le'Veon just to even start out in this offense. Once we get to January, however, I do kind of expect him to take over for Clyde and be the number one guy there in Kansas City. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for me because while they did spend a first-round pick on Clyde, the Chiefs don't strike me as the type of organization to be like, well, he's a first-round pick, so we have to play him.
Right.
They very much strike me as the type of, if you're the better player, you're going to play regardless. And that's not to say that Clyde's going to get his snaps and he's still probably the future of that position out in Kansas City. I'm not disputing that whatsoever. But in terms of who might impact your team in a playoff run this year, I think that you've probably got a good point that it may just be Le'Veon Bell.
And it takes heavy carries off of Clyde in year number 1, and it keeps Darrell Williams off the field. I mean, that's really the top way that you can say it. Darwin Thompson's not going to see the field much at all. DeAndre Washington, not going to see the field much at all. But you're going to have 2 guys at the top of that list, top of that room in the running back spot, Clyde and Le'Veon. Man, that is a dangerous, dangerous tandem. The Eagles have the football back, and they have it inside of 2 minutes, 2 timeouts, down by 5. Why the starting field position so good for Philadelphia? Well, a very, very poorly timed, unnecessary roughness on the punt coverage that also ended up with Deshaun Jackson going down. It did not look good. I don't want to speculate on what it exactly was, but definitely some type of a lower leg injury, knee, ankle, something, as he got rolled up on a late hit. That was just really, really unnecessary. Play was already over. He was down, and a guy just came in trying to, make a statement, make the film, and ended up knocking out Deshaun Jackson. Is this the first game that he's played in all year?
Yes.
Man, it doesn't look like he's going to be there much longer. Also, we also cannot let Evan Ingram by on that. He was wide open, and Daniel Jones put an absolute dime right in his hands on a 3rd and 6. They go deep to Evan Ingram and drops it. He could have waltzed in, and that would have been 6 in ball game. Instead, now after a pass to Richard Rodgers and a defensive pass interference, the Eagles are inside the red zone. We'll keep you posted and talk about this one once it's over with Tom Barton of Sports Garden. Keep it right here at Sports Map all night.
unfortunate call.
Here's Bill Schmidt.
Welcome back to the program at Sports Map All Night. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on Sports Map Radio across the country, coast to coast, as they say in the business. Andrew Carlson alongside. I'm Bill Schmidt. Thanks for hanging out. You can find us on Twitter at Carlson Radio, at Bill Schmidt Radio, and at Sports Map Radio. That's where you find the podcast each and every night. Find out what Eitan's talking about on the second level tomorrow. Jake Asman as well. You can also find his interview with Joe Willie Namath at Sports Map Radio on Twitter. You can also find our interview with Jake Asman about the interview with Joe Namath, amongst other things that we had a fun conversation with Jake about last night here on the program. Inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts studios, don't let a bad battery leave you stranded, ladies and gentlemen. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can test your battery free of charge. If it needs to be replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts can help you find the exact right battery for your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. Keep your car on the road by getting your battery tested for free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every single day. 1-800-224-2004. Andrew, there's some clock management issues that always flare up in the National Football League, but no bigger one than what I think we just saw with Joe Judge. Now, I'm not going to completely take him out and crucify and put him through the ringer on his decision-making here, but the Eagles get the ball inside the 10 after Boston Scott has like an 8 or a 10-yard run with about like a minute 4 to go. Now, you said you would have just let him score at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a really tough decision because, like we were talking about during the break, they've turned the Eagles away 3 times in the red zone already. Now, that didn't happen this time as Boston Scott just scored a touchdown. But to me, if a team is driving and has all the momentum on their side and they're going to leave you a chance to come down and win with a field goal with a minute 30 left, even if they score a touchdown and get the 2-point conversion, I have trust in my offense more to do that. And maybe this is just me as a scarred Texans fan at this point, but I have more trust in my offense to do that, especially the way that Daniel Jones has been throwing the ball tonight, than I would my defense getting the stop there with the Eagles having all the momentum going up against a relatively worn-out defense that's been having to be out there with the Eagles, I think, well over 30-plus minutes of time of possession.
No doubt. And your offense has been playing better than the Eagles' offense has pretty much the entire second half, I would say. I mean, the Giants have been moving the ball well. Now, have they capitalized each and every time? No. But you have Sterling Shepard now with a touchdown. Golden Tate had a big touchdown early in the first half. Evan Ingram just dropped one on the play before, on their last offensive play, which would have sealed the deal with 2 minutes to go. Now, instead, the Eagles are, as Andrew pointed out, Boston Scott scores a touchdown on a wheel route, which was dare I say, the best throw that Carson Wentz has made all day? I mean, it was probably the easiest and most pure throw that he's had all day. And now they line up some strange formation with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, and he ends up throwing a jump ball into the end zone. And I like getting guys in who are playmakers into the offense. But I think we're seeing Doug Peterson fall victim of the same thing that Sean Payton gets into. Too cute for your own good. What was that formation? They lined up both tackles on the outside as like split out wide receivers. Lined up with a wide receiver next to each offensive lineman at the numbers. And then had Carson Wentz and Boston Scott lining up on the far outs. So they essentially had 3 down linemen at the normal line of scrimmage, I guess you can say. And then the 2 other guys were lined out on the line of scrimmage, but out by the numbers. I don't know. That's just too funky for me. Just go and play the offense. I mean, am I that crazy for saying let your playmakers make plays? Like, let your quarterback go out and try to win the game?
Did you not give Carson Wentz that contract because he's supposed to be your franchise quarterback? Let him go win the game for you like he's supposed to be able to do?
Unless Jalen Hurts was drafted for it. Unless that's why Jalen Hurts was drafted. And now you give the Giants a chance to win the game. as you miss the 2-point conversion. It's 22-21. While this game has been very, very ugly, and some people are throwing their remotes straight through their television sets at 22-21 with a number of 44.5 on that 2-point conversion, there are some people absolutely livid with that decision. But more importantly, you just opened up a chance where you can lose this game because you tried to get too cute with it. Now, here again, though, talk about the clock management situation. Andrew, this is exactly what, Joe Judge wanted with 40 seconds to go, but you have no timeouts. And if it wasn't for a weird, lame call for the offense, you're in the midst of running out of time here.
Yeah, and I hate to be I told you so guy because it's always easier to do that with the power of hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would let Boston Scott just walk into the end zone there, you probably have about a minute of time left with 2 timeouts, needing a field goal to win or potentially tie the game had they gotten that 2-point conversion. So it just, look, he's a rookie head coach, and these blunders are going to happen. It's something to learn from.
Yes.
But it's a check mark in the bad column for this week.
Yeah, it's definitely a miss. That's for sure. That's no doubt about it. It's definitely a swing and a miss by Joe Judge. And also to Doug Peterson, if we're going to hand out, demerits on the clock management side of it, after he just took 2 timeouts and you have a minute left, it's second down. Why would you not run it? Like, give yourself one more chance. Or it was third down. Then he throws a jump ball into the end zone for your boy Greg Ward that falls incomplete. Why not run it and take down the extra 40 seconds? Just eliminate any chance they have for the ball back. I don't know. Maybe we just armchair quarterbacks play too much Madden where the clock management's so much easier than it is at this point in the game. But now it's over as Brandon Graham strip sacks Daniel Jones. Eagles recover. They're going to win it 22-21 in one of the uglier games you'll see all year long. But you can't tell me you weren't entertained there. It's like the scene from 300. Are you not entertained? Is this not way better than the debate? I mean, come on. Would you rather watch flies land on somebody's head or Brandon Graham strip sack Daniel Jones? Somebody talking about their health insurance plan or watching Daniel Jones trip at the 25-yard line when he had an 88-yard touchdown run? I don't know. No, it's preferences, to each his own, but there's no way you're telling me that this wasn't more entertaining than the debate. Now, informative, maybe so, whatever. But Andrew, that's why, you and I don't get paid to talk politics. We get paid to talk sports. And we do it pretty damn well. I'll tell you that much right here on Sports Map Radio. You know who else does? Got Tom Barton, Sports Garden. He's up next. What side of the failed 2-point conversion is Tom Barton on? 22-21, the final. Tom Barton of Sports Garden's Wanna-Bet Weekend Edition is next, right here on Sports Map Radio. It's Sports Map all night. Now, he gets sniped to the 25-yard line on a breakaway 88-yard touchdown run that could have been. What about his throw, though, late in the game? I think the Giants are fun to watch. I won't bet on them the rest of the season because you just don't know what's happening with them. But that team fights harder than a lot of other ones in the National Football League.
I've said it all along. I think that they actually have a decent head coach.
I agree. I think he's good.
Coaching. Yeah, I think they have a decent coaching staff overall, to be honest with you. I know, the Clapper gets a lot of attention, but I think they have a decent coaching staff overall. Their general manager is a disaster, and their starting quarterback is just a bad starting quarterback. Plus, you deal with injuries. The Giants are a team that, like you said, I'm not going to bet on them the rest of the year, but for me, they're a team that I'm buying on for 3 years from now. 3 years from now, we go look at the Giants and we could say, if they make a couple of tweaks and a couple of corrections in this week's division, I could see them getting a little bit better and kind of being that team. That speaks to the infrastructure. But the problem is the head of the snake, or you could say, Gettleman is a disaster, and Daniel Jones was a mistake. And you have got to correct that.
Yeah, no, when you're drafting your team to compete seemingly in the 1999 playoffs, like Dave Gettleman feels like he's making that team out to be, that's not a recipe for success. But what about the Eagles? They're just so, I can't put my finger on the word. A couple of the words that come to my mind, I can't say because of FCC violations, but there's just something about them that it's just not pretty, but it feels like they're going to be in somewhat every game that they play.
And this is a testament to Carson Wentz. Sure, it's in vogue right now to kind of rip on Carson Wentz. I've never been a fad guy. I'm always I'm the begrudging get off my lawn guy at 44 years old, right? I'm that guy. But I'm going to take the other path here. Well, everybody piles on Carson Wentz. I'm going, I think it's a miracle that he's holding it together the way that he is. I think it's a miracle that he's missing 3 offensive linemen, 4 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, a running back. I think it's a miracle that he's holding on as well as he is. And, we all look at it and go, oh, how bad is it? You're right. They're not getting blown out. They're in every game. They're going to be in this thing until the end, and it's going to be because of one guy, and that's Carson Wentz. Could he play better at times? Sure. Does he get rattled at times? Sure. But if you have a mediocre quarterback back there, if dare I say, look, you have a bad quarterback back there, they would be getting absolutely hammered every single game. They look like the Jets.
What do you think the addition of Le'Veon Bell does to the Kansas City Chiefs the rest of the season?
Not much. Look, not much. I look at the Chiefs and I go, I think this was a statement that we're going to pick up a good piece here. But I think Le'Veon Bell coming there was more of, it's an insurance policy. We have a rookie running back that didn't get a lot of camp, so we don't want him to hit that rookie wall. And if he does, maybe we could let Bell kind of take a little bit off. We don't believe in Williams. Remember, their real backup running back, he decided to not play this year because of COVID, right? So it was that, and I do believe the thing that people are missing with Le'Veon Bell signing, it was a keep away, wasn't it? Yankees, Red Sox used to play this a lot. We're going to sign him just so you don't have him. And the teams that they're looking at, think about it. Teams that were looking, Pittsburgh Steelers, kind of looking at them, well, they're going to be a competition. Buffalo Bills, kind of looking at them, they would be competition. The Raiders, kind of looking at them. All the teams that were kind of looking at Bell are right there with Kansas City. So KC said, you know what, we'll take him, we'll keep him away, and he's an insurance policy. I don't think it moves the needle all that much. I believe in Kansas City as much before the signing as I did after.
Tom Barton of Sports Gardens Wanna-Bet Weekend Edition. You hear it right here on Sports Map Radio each and every Sunday, starting at 10 Central, 11 on the East Coast, takes you up until kickoff of week number 7 in the National Football League. Tom, how good do you think Pittsburgh is?
I think they're the best team in the NFL. I said it coming into the season. I thought that they had a chance to be the best team in the NFL. I gave them my preseason game as my preseason preview as the team, my biggest bet of the season, plus 105 to make the playoffs. I had them winning the division. I had them going to the Super Bowl, or at least knocking off Kansas City, the one team that could knock them off. I think they are that good. To me, they are multifaceted. Roethlisberger goes deep when he has to. He's got to go to the air. He's got the compliments of Claypool and Johnson and Juju. If they want to run the ball, they can run the ball. They can play smash mouth. They have a big offensive line, and that defense, to me, is just fantastic. Think about it like this. They've been playing tremendous defense, and Minka Fitzpatrick didn't step up until last week. He could be the best defensive back in the league, and he hasn't had that kind of season yet. So it's all sort of coming together for them.
What about the team that they play and that they're underdogs to on the road in Nashville? Now, on the road, a 1-point dog, you know what that means with the home field advantage. What about Tennessee? They've had such a strange situation and course of events, but I think that team is also hitting a little bit of a stride, and they're fun to watch too.
Well, yeah, look, Ryan Tannehill, since he's taken over in the last 15 games, that's basically a full season. The Tennessee Titans are 12-3. He has just under 4,000 yards passing, 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he ran for 5 more touchdowns. That's MVP level Ryan Tannehill. So for those that are talking to me about Derrick Henry with 588 yards leading the NFL in rushing, well, it's no longer Derrick Henry's offense. This is a multifaceted offense. The thing with Tennessee is this. While everyone talks about, well, Vrabel likes to play smash mouth and he likes to run the ball, play good defense, they haven't played good defense. Their defense is getting a pass. Look at the defensive numbers that people are putting up against them. Watch the tape, and you'll see a lot of holes in this Tennessee defense. This is a team that lost Jarrell Casey over the offseason. They played a little above their head defensively, and they play a style where they need that running game to go. Sure, Tannehill's playing great, but that also means the defense is on the field more. I think if there is an undoing in Tennessee, it's a defense that just isn't up to par.
No, they're a team that's got to play from ahead. I see the same thing with Green Bay, and I think they got exposed in that way last week in Tampa.
Yeah, Green Bay plays the way that Aaron Rodgers plays, and Aaron Rodgers is a sucking little baby, right? He sits there, I'm going to sulk in the corner, and look, my team isn't doing well, and you're going to have Devontae Adams tap him on the head, and guess what? This week, he's probably going to go crazy, throw 5 touchdowns and 400 yards. Why? Because now he's angry. He's an emotional quarterback. As opposed to a guy like a Russell Wilson. I mean, Brady's emotional too, so it can work for you.
Mm-hmm.
But Aaron Rodgers, he is the pulse of that team, and that team goes by where he goes. Look, it's a bad defense in Green Bay. Let's not kid ourselves. And they can run the ball, but do they allow them to? Against Houston this weekend, they should be running the ball all day long. But I think Aaron Rodgers and his ego is going to say, I want to win this one because I was embarrassed on national TV because I was embarrassed by Tom Brady. So I look at that and I go, it might actually hurt them that Aaron Rodgers' ego gets in the way this week.
Who do you think is the most disappointing team in the National Football League this season? Tom Barton of Sports Gardens Wanna-Bet Weekend Edition here on Sports Map All Night.
That's a really, really good question because I actually was talking to.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Lions, and they said, well, yeah, I didn't believe in the Lions. You know what I mean? I didn't believe in teams like the Chargers. I think all these teams are kind of doing what I expected. The one team I will say is the New England Patriots. I don't want to say that I expected them to run crazy and go wild here, but I think Patriots fans, if I told them they would be 2-3, which is the lowest mark this late in the season since Tom Brady took over for Bledsoe back in 2001, they would be upset. So I'll go with the Patriots, but I don't think anybody is overly just falling flat on their face. I will say this. When you look at the overall landscape, I think people also expected Houston to be better. But
Sure.
When you look at that schedule, you couldn't expect them to be much better. I looked at that schedule at the beginning of the year, and I said, man, I'm going to be buying on Houston come week 4 because all of a sudden they're going to get skewed lines. And so that was a targeted situation. I'll go with the Patriots because you can't lose a game at home to the Denver Broncos like they did last week.
Now, what about the team that they host again this week in San Francisco, catching 2 on the road, and talk about a team that's been beat up pretty much all year long, but they seem like their defense is just nowhere near what it was last year, a lot of because Nick Bosa is no longer on the field for all of 2020.
Bill, what world do we live in where Bill Belichick is only giving 2 points to a team traveling across
No
country,
kidding.
coming off of a weird loss at home without their starting running back, without their backup running back, without some of their receivers, without their star defensive player, without their star defensive back, with a quarterback that's struggling. Somehow New England is trying to stop losing 3 times in a row, which hasn't happened in 20 years, trying to stop 2 back-to-back losing streaks that hasn't happened at home since 2003, yet they're only giving 2. This is a weird situation. I know everyone's looking at Shanahan and saying, well, he wants to come back and he wants to kind of prove a point to Belichick. I get that. San Francisco, though, I don't know if they have the guns to do it. I mean, sure, Kittle looks better, and Deebo Samuel and Ayuk, they're getting better, but I'm not sure, and I'm not convinced that Garoppolo's 100%, and I certainly don't think that offense is running on a full cylinders here with their running backs being banged up.
One thing that Tom Barton has taught me when he joins us each and every Thursday here on Sports Map Radio is just because the game is on TV doesn't mean you have to play it. But Tom, I'm scratching. I'm itching to play on this Sunday night game, Seattle against Arizona.
Oh man, this is an interesting one. Here's what I'm going to talk about on my show is that if you have time off, do you think that Pete Carroll took his time off and said, all right, Russell Wilson, we're going to work with you and get you better. All right, Carson and Lockett, we're going to work with Metcalf. We're going to work with you guys to get better. Absolutely not. This has been 2 weeks, including the bye week. This has been 2 weeks of let's fix the defense. Fix that defense. Now, I know Jamal Adams missed practice this week, and a lot of this is due to injury. But you've got to believe that they're going to have some kind of defensive plan for Arizona. I like Arizona, okay? I think that they are an intriguing team. That's the word I keep using, is intriguing.
Good way to put it.
But Bill, they do lose Chandler Jones. Now, he didn't hurt against Dallas, but I think that's going to hurt him against Russell Wilson. I look at this game and I go, to me, it's Seattle or nothing. And I might choose nothing here, but it's Seattle or nothing. I don't think there's any chance that you can take Arizona here.
No, I agree with you. That loss of Chandler Jones is just too thick. But they're so fun to watch when you get to see Kyler Murray running around in the backfield like that. He is something to behold. What else can we look forward to finding you 11 a.m. Eastern time this Sunday on Sports Gardens Wannabe Weekend Edition, Tommy?
Doing a little college as well this week.
Oh, okay.
So he's going to be coming on. Charlie Ward, remember Heisman Trophy
Amen.
winner, FSU. And we're going to be talking about Trevor Lawrence. How good is he? How good is Clemson? Clemson's 46.5-point favorites this week against Syracuse. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Biggest line in Syracuse history. So we'll be talking about a little bit about that. And, of course, my best bets on my show. I have not lost a bet. I'm only giving out one a week, okay? But I am undefeated. Call me Mr. Perfect. Picking up the gum and slapping it into the sand. You
can't miss it, especially with those kind of numbers. Tom Barton of Sports Gardens Wannabe Weekend Edition here on Sports Map Radio. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk next week.
Have a good one. Thank you.
That's Tom Barton, guys. Once again, Sports Gardens Wannabe Weekend Edition comes up live right here on Sports Map Radio each and every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. I lead in with Sunday Countdown, which starts at 9 a.m. Eastern time each and every Sunday as we take you through across the league. And then Tom gives you the plays and the investments that you're going to want each and every night. Joins us on the Progressive Guest Hotline. Quote, buy, and save on home insurance with Progressive's new Home Quote Explorer only at Progressive.com. Progressive is proud to honor our veterans by donating cars to move their lives forward, especially in times of need. Learn more about their Keys to Progress program and plans for 2020 at Keys2Progress.com. Take a quick time out. We'll be back right after this. Keep it right here at Sports
Auto Parts Studios. Here's Bill Schmidt.
Back here on Sports Map all night. This hour of the program is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage, when you want the ability to adjust your loan options in real time, Rocket can. 1-800-224-2004 inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios is the program each and every night here on Sports Map Radio. Thanks for hanging out with us. 22-21 the final in Thursday Night Football, which was, I mean, it was gross. Let's be honest here. However, there are plenty of games that, one, are worse, two, are far less intriguing than the game that we just saw here. And I stand by this quote. Now, we are within 2 weeks away. It's got to be better than watching the debate. Now, I will say this, hand raised in air, Andrew. Now, I don't know if this makes me a bad person. I missed the debate tonight. But we were working, so I think we get a pass. But, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said I was watching. I don't know about you, Bill, but some people can multitask.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, make sure you all go vote. Just everybody vote. Vote. That's the best message we can give. Keep it right here at Sports Map all night. rather be than right here listening to Sports Map all night on YouTube, at Bill Schmid Radio on Twitter, or listening to us on the live stream. StreamSportsMap.com. Perfect place to find us if you're listening on a desktop, or the free Sports Map Radio app. And by the way, terrestrial radio is indeed still a life form in the country, and you can check us out on each and every one of our fine local affiliates across the country. Carson Wentz was 3 of 4 for 59 yards and a touch on his game-winning drive that led the Philadelphia Eagles in 1:55 down for a score to beat the New York Giants. It's their first win by trailing, when trailing by 10 points in the fourth quarter in Carson Wentz's career. Their first home win on the season for Philadelphia. They're now 1-2-1 at Lincoln Financial. It was an ugly game, sure. However, Carson Wentz is going to come out of here as the hero, and I'm already seeing different people glorifying his throws all over social media. You win the game, you win the game. There's not much that I can diss for that. However, we can say this. He clearly is not worthy of $104 million right now in a contract. I mean, the contract that he signed is looking worse and worse each and every day. Yet he was without his number one target. He's still without his number one target, Alshon Jeffrey, on the wide receiver spot. Then factor in that Zach Ertz is now down for 4 to 6 weeks. He's throwing to Greg Ward Jr., and with all due respect, Andrew, to your Houston Cougars, that is not who you want to be throwing the football to on the outside. Finding a way to win the game is really, really impressive. All the Eagles got to do at this moment is get to the bye. They win a game tonight, then they play Dallas next week, and a much-needed bye week for the Philadelphia Eagles where they can rest up and then hopefully get Alshon Jeffrey back. Possibly see Deshaun Jackson again. He goes out tonight. But the Eagles are far from done in that NFC East. Big weekend in college football, and some company is back. Preview it next on Sports Map All Night.
Hi, this is Jay.
I just snuck it in there. Andrew, what music service do you get your sound from? Where do you get the music that Andrew Carlson listens to when he hits a leg day or goes and benches at the gym?
Spotify, been almost day one.
Did you happen to look on Spotify at any new songs that were put out today?
No, I have not.
Oh, you didn't see what my guy Jack Harlow put out earlier on today?
Oh, the little Tyler Hero song.
Yes,
I heard about
sir.
that.
Let's
I haven't
go.
looked at it, but I did hear about that being in the works.
I have not heard it though. I will say this: I have not fully tuned in yet, and I know we cannot play it on the air. I can just tell you that right now. But Tyler Hero, if you guys don't know and you're just tuning into the program, I broadcast up here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, here inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts studios with my guy Andrew Carlson back down in Houston. Tyler Hero, guard for the Miami Heat, the runners-up in the NBA, graduated from the high school that yours truly also is an alum of. In a very, I don't know how to say this, just a very white suburb. Like there's no other way to put it. It's a very condensed, very put out white suburb. I'm not saying that everybody in here is loaded by any stretch of the imagination, but a very well-off community. And everybody in Milwaukee has kind of been turned off to Tyler Hero. I absolutely love it. Man, there's a kid from your hometown that makes his dream come true and plays into the NBA. I don't care what types of things he says in the media, whatever it is, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're not committing any crimes, you're not putting people in danger, go live your life. Go do what you want, man. Go enjoy the success that you've had. So Tyler Hero is now in a rap song. The name is Tyler Hero by Jack Harlow. The only issue I have here, Andrew, just Tyler, let's look at the circles we're running in, because Jack Harlow is the reason why Lou Will got ousted for being at the club, right? It was a Jack Harlow Instagram post with his guy Lou Will hanging out at the club getting some wings.
Getting them Magic City lemon Lou Will lemon pepper wings.
I'm just saying, you don't want to always be hanging out with somebody that can not necessarily snitch, but you just got some loose lips. Just watch out. You don't want to find yourself in the wrong spot of a Instagram post. That's all I'm saying. Got a very nice looking nice girlfriend. Looks like they have a lot of fun. Model girlfriend that he's rolling with. Youngsters having a lot of fun. It's a wild time. But hey, they said us kids from Whitnell High School wouldn't amount to anything. Now he's got a rap song after him. So that's a pretty impressive state to get to. All right, let's get back to the crux of the conversation here and the important side of sports. College football gets a little bit more company this weekend. The Big Ten joins the college football party. And some good games on the docket so far this weekend. Game day is going to be up in Minneapolis to welcome the Big Ten to play here in 2020 as the Minnesota Golden Gophers go up against the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan, to me, is always like one of the top, most overrated programs in college football. Whether or not they've been to a college or sniffed even a college football playoff, they still will start the preseason in the top 25 because of the talent they consistently pumping into that team. But not so fast this weekend. They're playing a Gopher team that deserves to be there with PJ Fleck. He's turned that program straight around. Game day had never been in Minneapolis until last year when Minnesota played Penn State. Both teams were in the top 10, and now you're seeing them there within twice in 8 months. So a pretty crazy turnaround there, but the Golden Gopher offense is one to watch in this game. It's number 21 against number 18. But Minnesota quarterback Taylor Morgan was there last year as a redshirt sophomore, comes back, and returns after, over 3,000 yards through the air and 30 touchdowns a year ago. But also future first-round pick Rashad Bateman is back in the fold there for Minnesota as he opted out of the season originally, opted back in, and was granted a permission to play with the Gophers this year. And he's a complete difference maker there for the Golden Gophers. A lot of fun to watch, and that's going to be a good one coming up on ABC, 7:30 Eastern time on Saturday. But when I see Michigan and see how overrated I always believe that program seems to be, they're like the second most overrated program in the country. Feels to me, Andrew, usually like a step behind Notre Dame, because Notre Dame could come in with 2 wins and they're immediately pumped as going to be one of the best teams in the country. I watched them play an absolute snoozer last week. 12-7. They beat an AAC Louisville group, which their starting quarterback gets out within the first couple of series and starts cramping throughout the game. They're playing an ACC schedule this year. And the more and more I watch Notre Dame, and Brian Kelly is a pretty solid college football coach. I'll give him that. But their program just doesn't seem, and the talent that I watch each and every weekend on that roster, in on that field, in those uniforms, just never seems to match for me where they consistently are getting ranked. However, their quarterback, Ian Book, at the moment, nice player. If he can control the game coming up this weekend for Notre Dame, they'll have a legitimate shot. But they're third in the country, and the teams that they've beaten have a combined 3 wins within the FBS. Number 3 in the country. When you're Notre Dame, you're Notre Dame. They're going to get put up there. Like a lot of the blue bloods, you get the benefit of the doubt, and it feels like they always do for me on that one. But also in the Big 12, don't blink now, number 6, Oklahoma State. Could they possibly be a legit contender to get into the college football playoff? No, I didn't misspeak. Oklahoma State, not the Sooners, who have 2 losses already on the year. But Oklahoma State will host number 17, Iowa State, this weekend. The Cyclones have been a mainstay, Andrew Carlson, in the 3 plays that pay this year. I think they've appeared already 3 or 4 times. But Matt Campbell, the head coach there at ISU, his Cyclones are 21-8 all time when an underdog, as they will be again this weekend when they go to Oklahoma State and play in Stillwater as a 3.5-point dog. They're always difficult. They always kind of muddy up the game. My guy Brock Purdy over there, he can always sling it and come up with some big plays. I'm not saying they win that game. I think it's definitely a 3-point game, though. Oklahoma State's a team, though, with a strong, crazy strong running game. And Chuba Hubbard, without a doubt, has been and had been one of the best players in the country running the football there for Oklahoma State. Over 300 yards already on the year on 69 attempts. He's averaging almost 5 yards a pop. So watch out for Stillwater's game this weekend as Oklahoma State hosts number 17, Iowa State. And a game that will not get enough pub, but you definitely should have your eye on. Matchup of 2 of the only 9 left unbeatens in college football. Cincinnati Bearcats, number 9 in the country, against the SMU Mustangs. Bearcats, though, have not played a game since October 3rd. They heard the Tennessee Titans were on a nice little layoff, and they said, hold my beer. Oh, sorry. No one drinks in college. They said, hold my Fanta. And now they will play their first game since October 3rd. Had a bye on October 10th. Their game on the 17th against Tulsa was postponed for COVID cases on the Cincinnati roster. So good to see that team get back out onto the field for Cincinnati, as they're a good group playing in the AAC. That's a group that could definitely make a little bit of noise. However, with the emergence and the return of the Big Ten, also the Pac-12 coming back in the next couple of weeks, I think it's really, really hard pressed to see a team like that from a non-Power 5 in the group of 5 teams, which I think is one of the lamer names that you could possibly come up with. Difficult year for one of those teams to crack into the college football playoff. But we've seen weirder. Couple of 2-loss teams in the Big Ten, a couple 2-loss teams in the SEC. Maybe they find their way in there. I would doubt it, but Cincinnati's always fun to watch, and I'm a big fan of Luke Fickell's, and I think he is a big-time head coach in college football, and he's a big fan of hanging around with Cincinnati in a program that continues to be on the rise. That is the slate in college football. Some reshuffling to the slate in the NFL side. We'll bring you that and some saltiness coming out of the major leagues with one soon-to-be Hall of Famer. That's still straight ahead in your phone calls at 1-800-224-2004. Most disappointing team in the National Football League is who? Keep it right here at Sports Map All Night. It's Sports Map All Night. Thanks for giving us a shout. 1-800-224-2004 inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Whether you're listening to us on the free Sports Map Radio app, one of our local affiliates across the country, Mighty Air 1090, out in SoCal, WCCO up in Minneapolis, coast to coast across the country nationwide. Bill Schmidt with you here on Sports Map All Night inside the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios. Need replacement parts and tools for your repair, maintenance, or restoration project? O'Reilly Auto Parts has you covered. Trust the friendly, knowledgeable parts professionals at O'Reilly Auto Parts. They know what it takes to get the job done right the first time. In fact, professional technicians have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for years. Stop by and talk to one of the professional parts people today at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every single day. 1-800-224-2004. Khabib Gaethje coming up this weekend. Note the start time on the pay-per-view for the UFC. Hopefully we can talk some UFC tomorrow night on the show. 2:54. The pay-per-view starts at 2 in the afternoon on the East Coast. Now, Andrew, you were with me last night when I found out this information at like midnight. I'm stunned. What are we putting the pay-per-view at 2 in the afternoon for? I will say this, as somebody that regularly falls asleep before the main event, however, not going to say it's the worst idea, but we couldn't have met in the middle and like went at 6? Am I completely off base here? We could have blended it in a little bit, marinate it through. No, instead we're starting up at 2. So make sure if you want to watch Gaethje Khabib, a fight in which hard to believe anybody's going to take down Khabib at 28-0. Another video, everybody's seen the video now of him wrestling the bear, but the one that was trending across platforms today was this dude training for cardio-wise for the fight, swimming against the current in a river back in Russia. And I mean, this thing is cruising against him. I'm saying swimming against the current. He is pumping against this current on just like some kind of a rapids out in Russia. The guy is absolutely insane. Nobody would want to mess with a guy like that. However, Justin Gaethje is one of the fun fighters to watch in UFC, so it'll be a definite showdown coming up this weekend that I'm very much looking forward to. Reason why Khabib is indeed over a -300 favorite. Very, very justifiably so. He's one of the most dominant fighters, if not the most dominant champion that UFC has ever had. He'll be on in full effect coming up this weekend as he battles for the championship, where Gaethje won the interim belt against Tony Ferguson about 4 or 5 months ago, and they fight to unify that belt coming up this weekend in Abu Dhabi for Fight Island. So UFC pay-per-view coming up this weekend should be a lot of fun. We're going to hear from Carson Wentz as the program continues here as well. The NFL has shuffled up the schedule this week for the Buccaneers and Raiders. Previously slated to be Sunday Night Football were Vegas against Tampa Bay. However, that had to be adjusted earlier on today as the Raiders placed 5 new players on the COVID-19 restricted list. Now, 2 days ago, the team put right tackle Trent Brown on the COVID-19 restricted list, and then had to make the decision and go through contact tracing to find high-risk contacts, and 5 players were placed on that earlier on today. 2 starting guards, Gabe Jackson and Denzel Good, tackle Colton Miller, and starting all-pro center Rodney Hudson. Along with that was safety Jonathan Abram. The entire starting offensive line for the Las Vegas Raiders now being placed on the reserve COVID list, and they've all missed now their second consecutive day of practice. They're all being quarantined at the moment. The Raiders have just 5 remaining offensive linemen on their 53-man active roster. They do have 2 extra guys on the practice squad that could be pushed through. The NFL, when making a statement earlier on today, announcing the schedule change, said that the decision was made to move the Vegas Raiders against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the noon or the 3 o'clock slate, 4 o'clock Eastern time, bumping Seattle and Arizona back to Sunday Night Football, stating they did not want to have any possibility to lose that slot and make sure that their fans had every opportunity to enjoy Sunday Night Football. Paraphrasing, what that means is NBC wanted some ratings. NBC wanted some money. So the NFL moves back Seattle, Arizona, which hindsight being 2020 is a great move. You have a 5-0 team against a 4-2 group with one of the most dynamic young stars in the game. An opportunity to put Kyler Murray again on national television in prime time after his performance on Monday Night Football a week ago. Another home run move by the NFL. But now the NFL is really going to get tested with what these rules and where their protocols move from here in regards to how you handle positive tests in the league and on certain teams and in position groups. NFL rules stipulate that teams must have at least 8 offensive linemen on their 48-man roster active on game day. If you're following along, there's 5 remaining offensive linemen on the active 53-man roster for Vegas and just 2 on the practice squad. Can you find another one? Sure. But if the Raiders are unable to dress at least 8 offensive linemen for Sunday's game, they would be allowed a maximum of only 47 active players. So you don't get to just bump in with another defensive tackle. Got to have 8 listed offensive linemen. Now, Jonathan Abram is also involved in this, so they must quarantine now for 5 days, plus their last day of contact with Trent Brown, who was the first person to go on the list and was the one who initially was placed on the COVID-19 restricted list for what we believe is a positive test. There was no true report whether or not it was a positive test, though, for Trent Brown. He was placed on the COVID restricted list 2 days ago. So now the league, once again, continues their point of care testing and point of care tracing and contact tracing to find out exactly if or not this game can be played. It appears somewhat optimistic, but when the NFL announces the change out of an abundance of caution to ensure that a game would be available for fans on Sunday Night Football, to me, you read between the lines, and it seems like this game is very, very, very much in doubt between the Vegas Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Tampa's coming off the biggest win that they could have possibly imagined last weekend. Beating Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers the way they did at home. That's a dangerous situation to be in. But Abram and all offensive linemen, which they conceivably could be cleared Sunday morning via a point-of-care test. It appears that they possibly still could play this game. However, it is very, very much in doubt. So they last came in contact with Trent Brown on Monday. Got a quarantine for 5 days. So Sunday morning, we'll know the fate, theoretically, of this game. My only question would be, and I imagine the answer is yes, these guys are then getting tested each and every day, you'd imagine, right? To see if they pop a positive after the contact? Or does then that just filter in after Saturday or Sunday once you have to go and check in with a point of care? We'll know a lot more here within the next couple of days and probably within the next couple of hours if indeed we're going to be able to see Tampa against Vegas. But 2 teams that have already been so impacted by COVID-19 and with the NFL and the violations that Vegas had to deal with and the fines they had to deal with. Just a couple of weeks ago, what was it, 8 different players got fined for going to a charity event without masks on. John Gruden's been fined $100,000 by the league for not wearing his mask. Sticky situation there in Las Vegas. Carson Wentz leads a comeback victory for Philly. We hear from him next on Sports Map All Night.